The way that we live a miraculous life is by adding up those little meditative moments.
Mm-hmm.
Because each meditative moment is a miracle. It's that
Yes.
shift in our
Yes.
thinking. And the more we add up those miracles,
Yes.
the more we live a miraculous life.
Yes.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
It's actually kind of somewhere I wanted to begin with you, because I think that all of us out in the world who have a spiritual foundation, a spiritual practice, in many
Yes.
ways, we're spiritual activists.
Yes.
And now we are in this year, as you just said, of the wildness and the combustibility, right? We're talking
Yes.
about
Yes.
this time that we can be in a great change.
Yes.
And I think that I want to check in specifically about how you might recommend anyone listening, whether they have a specific spiritual practice, Buddhist practice, whatever it might be,
Yes.
might be considering bringing that practice and integrating that practice more into their day-to-day life so that they can
I think so.
be part of the solution and the change that we're coming up against
I
right now.
think so.
So what I've loved about your work is the simplicity and the ability to demystify big principles and give them to people to practice in their own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for someone who's new to Buddhism, right? Everybody calls you Buddha Bob. So
How
Buddha
did you
Bob,
know that?
I follow. So Buddha Bob, let's think about this newcomer to Buddhism, and I'd like to just give them and offer them a chance to sort of understand how the Buddhist principles can help us in these times.
Right. I think key thing is happiness and joy and even ecstasy and bliss. That's the key. That's the absolute key. That was Buddha's discovery. So, Buddha has been wrongly presented to people as, oh, he's into suffering. Everybody's got to suffer. He only mentioned that if people are confused and they're in the wrong bus station, going in the wrong direction, then they're going to be frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
He only mentioned that because we're all in the right bus station. And when we know that, we can be blissful. We can be happy, no matter what. But that doesn't mean we're insensitive to suffering, our own and others, and that we wouldn't want to do something about it.
Right.
But you can't do anything about it if all you're doing is the suffering.
Right.
You have to have the extra bliss. You have to have a bliss that overrides it. Like, have you ever been in such a good state that you bumped your leg and didn't notice it?
I have, actually.
Luckily.
Oh no, I have. I've had experiences where I've been in such a good state that I lose track of the
Exactly.
suffering.
And then later, oh, what happened? Why bump myself? That's the key, is to be like that. And one lady once, actually publisher of Simon & Schuster at one time, said I had to write something about reasons for hope. And I wrote 10 points. But the last one, I surprised myself. I suddenly wrote, it is our duty to be so happy that even if they kill us, we'll die happy.
Whoa. And yes to all of that. Now, the listener that is sitting here and is saying to themselves, well, how can I be happy?
Exactly.
How can I be happy?
That's the thing. Well, you know what? There's another cute thing. Somebody gave me a painting by, I think, someone quite famous, but I don't remember who, which was a painting with a bunch of cherries on the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that big, but like that. Some cherries on it. And it said, people think happiness is to be gotten. Actually, happiness is a choice, I said. And I like that. I really like that. I think
I couldn't agree with you
That's a good
more.
start.
I really agree with you, because even in my darkest moments in my life, I have always remembered that I could exercise choice. So in those moments of I had postpartum depression, which nearly took my life, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the remembrance that I had a choice, even the simple choice.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments when you're dealing with a
Mm-hmm.
biochemical condition, you might think,
Yeah.
well, I have no choice right now.
Mm-hmm.
But my choice was to seek support. My choice in that moment would be to not feel that way. Even in those moments of saying, I'm recognizing the suffering, I don't know how to get out of it, but I choose to not have it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, is in many ways is a prayer. It's an opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a redirect.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely believe that it's important to acknowledge too that when we say happiness is a choice that we make, we have to recognize that it's not that we're going to go from despair to happiness right away, but that exercising of that choice is the step towards that next direction. Now, if you have a practice, let's say you have a Buddhist practice, how would you exercise that choice?
Well, when you feel pain, you can go nuts because I feel pain. So you can feel it twice. We normally do. It's like I have a pain. And isn't it awful? I have a pain. And I'll tense up and I resist it and so on. When I feel pain, I remember, oh, that's pain. On the other side of that, I wasn't feeling it. So I could be worse. I think that, Lake Wobegon, that's what they used to say when they were in a good mood on Thanksgiving. At Lake Wobegon, the American, whatever it was, that funny guy. And he would say when they were in the best situation, they just had a little port wine after a great Thanksgiving dinner, and they'd sit and they'd look at each other and look at each other, and they'd say, yep, it could be worse.
Right.
So right away, when you have a pain, if you realize immediately it could be worse, then you already have the joy of it isn't worse. It's just where it is. So the key, I think, Buddha's key discovery is that the reality of every situation is freedom from being forced to only be stuck in it a certain way. And that with that freedom, then you can always choose the half full or the half empty. You can see the potential for the full. And I think, and we are indoctrinated by culture and also Eastern cultures too. This isn't an East-West thing.
It's not, yeah.
We were indoctrinated to be afraid of reality. That's why my book, my latest one, is called Wisdom is the Bliss. Not ignorance, in other words. The ignorance is when you don't know what it is, when you misunderstand where you are, then you will be miserable. You will be frustrated. You won't be good enough. You won't be satisfied. But when you know where you are, you will be blissful. And so wisdom is the bliss. It means knowing what the reality of the situation is. So that's the key. The key is we can always get more happier once we know that. But the key thing is, no matter what the situation, in whatever adversity, that's an opportunity to feel better. And even when we have a bit of a pain, And then eventually when we learn to sort of constantly flip over that way and not go into feeling the pain twice and lamenting that we have the pain and be angry that we have the pain, instead of that, we're delighted we don't have more pain. And then, Dalai Lama likes to say that when he gets a little bit overwhelmed by some adversity, and he's a very sensitive person, like, well, of course, we all are. Every human being is a massively sensitive instrument. And it's not just the brain, it's the whole body. Every, fingertip of every human being is very, very sensitive. And somehow, at least in our notion of Darwin, we chose that because we have a long history, all of us. We didn't just pop out suddenly and here we are, We've had a long background. And we chose the greater sensitivity because we knew to whatever degree we knew that we're in a river that basically is good. It's basically, people who believe in God and they believe that God is good, they sort of get that. They if they may personify that in a way where it comes only for them, or they have all kind of extra ideas about it, that any mystic will tell you, nobody will know. If you really want to touch God, you won't be knowing what it is. You'll just be embraced by it. You'll be suffused with it, basically, and so that part is it's up to choice. That's a choice too, but the point is, in the case of the Buddhists, it's nirvana. It's the clear light of emptiness. It's the clear light of freedom. Clear light meaning that it's like dark energy, dark matter. It's but it's invisible, but it's not dark. It's not dark. It's like crystal. It's like you are there, I'm here, between us. It seems to be invisible. It's all one stream of energy. That was Buddha's discovery. And, it's like dark matter, dark energy, but it's invisible. But it's not dark. It's neither light nor dark. It has light and dark. It transmits whatever it is. So that's a key thing, I think, to be really working on undoing the conditioning that we have to be afraid of reality.
Yep.
And to think that something's wrong always and it's hiding around the corner, it's going to get it. And even then, when we do sort of feel good, we feel immediately like guilty, worried, who's going to come and take it away from us. We're going to get spanked because we had fun.
Right. Celebrating the goodness, but also an unlearning of the belief that it has to be so hard, and learning the And so what I'm hearing is this witnessing and accepting of the suffering.
Yes.
In a way that this I don't have to feel this twice. It's here.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Right.
And unlearning the belief that it has to be hard to survive, to be here.
That's
to be
right.
Human. And then the next step of that is embracing the grace of the feeling good.
Yes.
Because I agree with you. So many people have these fleeting moments of good, these fleeting moments of joy.
Yes.
And the second they have that, it's what shoe's gonna drop, how and that inability to be in the presence of that.
That's right.
I think it was Peter Levine, the somatic experiencing therapist, said that trauma is the inability to be present.
Yes.
And so much of the path of, whether it's the Buddhist path or any kind of spiritual path, I believe is the unlearning of that fear and that story, and remembering that love and that light and that joy of who we truly are.
Yes.
And I know from my own personal experience that having been on this journey for my life, I have come to knowing the joy of presence and the joy. I mean, I even found myself yesterday just walking around and just being like, I just feel so good. And I didn't have any reason. It wasn't because like everything was working out. I was just like, I just feel happy and joyful. And there was no voice saying, stop that. It's going to get away. It was just more like, let's get more of that.
Fantastic.
And listen, it's important for me to say, it's like I'm a trauma survivor. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. I've had so much experience in my life that would otherwise tell me that isn't possible. But the undoing is possible.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's living the miracle, actually.
It's living that miracle.
The other great thing about Wood Dragon Year, or this Wood Dragon Year, and we're still close to the full moon of the first lunar month. And the full moon of the first lunar month in Tibetan culture is called the miracle full moon. And it's a time because it celebrates a time in Buddha's lifetime when he showed miracles. Usually he would avoid that, because it was so spectacular that then people would, like showing some marvelous thing, like a Christmas tree out of a toothpick or something.
Right.
But he did that not one day. He showed that. And actually, we have a miracle. I was going to say about His Holiness, I got distracted. It's my age,
Wait, can I ask you a quick question though about what you were saying about the Buddha? So if he had this one day where he would show the miracles.
Yes.
And would he not show the miracles because he didn't want to sensationalize or it's like the miracles are natural and he's probably just like, this is just the miracles, but I'm going to show them on one day.
Yes.
And the one day was just
toward the end of his life, he did as he was leaving. Late in the life, and the people had assembled, and he did it because people were challenging whether he understood reality.
He wanted to show
because he was making this radical claim about reality that it's just totally good.
Yes.
That it's beautiful, it's beautifully designed, there's loving beings all around us. They want us to be happy. We chose this place because when we were in other animal forms, which are more, guarded, like a being that has scales or horns or thick skin, But then we couldn't feel pleasure, we couldn't feel happiness because we were like living inside of like sandpaper.
So we chose the body of a
we
human.
chose the more sensitive being because we sort of got an inkling from our hearts that life fits together well. Molecules and atoms and energies, and there's an overall thing which we could call love, or we could call it abundance, or we could call it sufficiency for every entity that's enfolded within it. Like Gaia, the idea of Gaia, Mother Earth. It's a miracle. We live in a miracle on a rock filled with boiling rock, a little skin, then a little thin atmosphere, and then like darkness with not much thing, but it's still transparent. We can see the stars. And so this little sliver of space, we crawl around on it. We can breathe in all kind of nice air. The plants love us. They're producing oxygen for us. They take our carbon and make a nice tree or a flower out of it. I mean, we live in a miracle. Well, we
Yeah, but
do.
here's a tough question though. So
Right?
we live in a miracle, which I wholeheartedly believe, 1000% know.
That's wonderful.
I know this, know this, know this. But of course, a lot of the collective consciousness has not chosen the miracle, or maybe they've had so much of a barrier to that miracle
Mhm.
that the belief is so ingrained
Right.
that joy is not possible, that
Right.
interconnectedness is not possible, that
Right.
the happiness and that truth, the core truth,
Right.
isn't possible, which is where we are now,
Right.
right?
Right. So
Now-
Buddha called this kind of a certain kind of happiness, you call it the suffering of change. And that's because, like, the other day you were feeling like that. You mentioned.
I feel like that right now.
Exactly.
I feel like that right now.
Exactly. But the first way of what stops that when we're feeling that is we tend to have this other narrative inside that will say, oh, but this isn't going to last.
Yeah.
Or it could be better if some other thing was happening. So we'll compare it.
Or what's next?
We'll come up with a concept. And that comes from our conditioning. The time when we're really feeling it, we're not thinking whether it's now or later or in the moment or isn't in the moment, because we just surrender to it.
Mhm.
We just let go of it. It's like, I was lost and I'm found, like that's it. But then we cut it off ourselves with craving for more. Whereas when we let it take us, it's all totally there. And then there's a second skill which can intensify it even more. This is what I was trying to say about Dalai Lama. He says when he really feels like crushed by adversity, he gets reports that they just killed like 1,000 people somewhere that he feels very closely connected to. His Tibetan people, for example, up in the mountains under the communists and the whole thing. So they just did something nasty to a whole bunch of them, and he's feeling really crushed. So then he says compassion saves him. Because then what he does, what that means is he finds in other people, A, that they're in a worse situation, and B, that even they can be improved in that situation. So it's not just empathy. It is a total empathy, but it's also finding that actually they're all right too, really underneath. And then the key border for that is dealing with the issue of death. And death really liberates. If you really understand death, it liberates you from that biggest sort of complex knot, the knot of fear that the dominator cultures, the authoritarian cultures, the dictator cultures enforce on us human beings by making us say, no, this is a terrible world and you need me to protect you, so you should be scared, even be scared of me.
Right.
And then you just obey me, and then you're there like that. And that we have to learn to realize that we're conditioned by that. And then when we feel good, we learn to ignore the narrative that this isn't going to work out, or this is going to lead to something bad, or all that guilt that will come up from feeling good. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
And then spread that to others, and then we're really more insulated because we have their joy. And that's why you have such a wonderful profession,
The best
where
profession.
you're reaching out to people and you're helping them turn inward to their heart and find the half fullness of their life.
And I think that even in the darker journeys I've lived in my life, the times where I was still teaching and writing spiritual books, but still really suffering,
Mm-hmm.
the mentality always was, I choose to heal. I choose to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And being in that choice to heal is let me be on this journey of unlearning that fear and
Mhm.
staying consistent. And now, as a result of just being in that choice,
Mhm,
I
mhm,
choose to heal,
mhm,
right? So
mhm.
yes, I choose happiness in my
Right.
sense. I was saying I choose healing.
That's-
I have
that's
come
right.
here where I am today, and I'm so pleased that I can live to tell, because even in those dark moments, that choice to heal was enough to keep me
Always.
to keep me moving and to keep me connected. And that optimism and that hopefulness. And
Yes.
it is a mentality. It is a
Yes.
mentality of this is possible.
That's it.
This is possible.
It's really great.
It's just
I
unbelievable.
love that you're going there.
So we have to go. That's the only place I want to go, man.
It is.
And so the truth is that So I think that there's this thing. I'm trained in internal family systems therapy with Richard Schwartz,
Okay.
and so much of Dick talks about self energy, which would be like your Buddha nature, which is
Yes.
compassion and curiosity and
Yes.
creativity and connectedness, and
Yes.
so much of what we lose sight of is that connection to that source of that energy within us.
Yes.
But as we start to slowly titrate back into it, we develop more and more and more of it.
Yes.
It becomes all that we rely on.
Yes.
And that's actually what I've wanted to be for others, is to say that here's the truth about my suffering, and here's still my choice that I can make.
Yes.
And so as someone who has lived the teachings of the Buddha,
Yes.
and taught the teachings of the Buddha,
Yes.
and practiced them in your own life,
Yes.
when for you was, well, there's two questions. One was what led you to fall in love with the Buddha? And I know there's a love affair with the Buddha. And then when was that moment in your life when you felt, I got this, I really, really can feel this now?
Well, I think it was when I understood, not really what Buddha, because that took me a long time, but when I first encountered Buddha, what I understood was that he said that not only could I understand myself and the world, but I had to if I wanted to be happy.
There you go.
And I had always been told, first by religion people, Sunday schoolish sort of thing, you have to believe something that doesn't make sense to you, but that's tough luck because you can't know anything anyway. God knows, but you can't because we don't. So you just have to believe it whether it makes sense to you or not. And I said, well, why do you say that? And then I said, you say now, right now, that you don't know. Somebody told you you had to believe, but you still don't know. So you don't know if you're telling me the right thing or not, do you? So why should I listen to that? So then when I ran over to the science side, right, the scientists, great scientists, and they said, in school, I'm talking like 5th grade, 4th grade, in school, they said, oh yeah, you can study a lot. You can know all about this little molecule, this being, and look at a microscope, telescope. You can know this. But of course, when the more you know, the more you'll know you don't know. So you can't understand. So they were agreeing with that you can't understand. And I always felt trapped by that, and I didn't like it. And I just determined, and I didn't study for my classes. I was a little bit IQ-ish, so I got good grades anyway, but I didn't study, and I wasted my time, actually. And then suddenly I read this, you can understand reality. Your human mind, human is an instrument that can understand, that fits into their world, and they can understand how to connect to it. Oh, wow. Okay, that I want to follow that. It wasn't like I want to be a member of a different religion or culture.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that. Somebody philosophically, which to me is scientifically, saying you can and you must understand. And it's your responsibility to try to understand.
That language
That
is what
flipped me right
yes.
around.
It's
I
your
left Harvard.
responsibility.
I left Harvard where they're all into their authority thing, and those psychologists, they tell you how you have no freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You think you wanted chocolate instead of vanilla,
Right?
And you were unconscious, chose the chocolate 5 minutes ago,
Right.
And you went up in your brain, ding, 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 and then you're just a little robot, and you just grabbed that chocolate. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, whose authority are they enforcing by saying that? And therefore, some idiot tells us something just because they got elected to something, and they're telling us to do something stupid,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to follow that? No. Everything is choice, and therefore everyone has responsibility. That's really that took me much longer to understand that,
but it inspired
that was the
you.
big turn for me.
That was the turn that I
can
have
know.
choice, and it's my responsibility to exercise that choice. I think I have had a similar experience of
I think so.
yes, because
We wouldn't be sitting here.
no, I would like to
I
continue to
wouldn't
hang
love
out
you
with you
like I do.
I love you too.
Just watching you. If we didn't think that way.
I completely agree, because that recognizing it's my responsibility to exercise this choice. So first I have the choice, right? So that's my
Yes.
choice. I'm going to choose a life that of joy. I'm going to
Yes.
make that choice.
Yes.
And then any one of those of us who have that spark of hope and faith and choose, it is our responsibility to share that. It's our responsibility to be it.
Yes.
And first, in the expression of being it, we share it.
Yes.
Because somebody listening right now may not even be following what they're saying, but they're feeling the energy of what's happening. And they're feeling also not just words, but the integration of that feeling.
Yes.
Because I think that that's the gift of being in that small choice daily.
Yes.
Is that it adds up. Those small choices are miracle moments.
They are miracle.
Each moment that we shift our thinking.
Absolutely.
And we go into that more hopeful, that more faithful, choosing that fear moment and turning it into that love moment.
Yes, I want to, what you said about hope really got me. You can find on YouTube, like one of those 5-minute thing with Dalai Lama. He's being interviewed by Piers Morgan. I almost fainted when I saw it. I wasn't there. But except then I got there by YouTube. Isn't it a miracle?
We're all getting there now.
He was probably in London. And the guy says, "Oh, you're the Dalai Lama. I always wanted to ask you, what's the meaning of life?"
Yeah.
With a British accent, So Dalai Lama goes, "Why?" He says, "Happiness." He says, "Joy." And then the guy's looking very skeptical. He's a Brit, right? He looks
totally.
like
Brits look.
So then Dalai Lama says, "Reason?" Just one word. Reason? The future is a mystery. So, in present, we hope it will be a little better. And in the present, that hope makes us happy. I couldn't believe it.
In the present, that hope makes us happy.
Yeah.
Let's say that again. So the future is a mystery. Is a mystery.
We don't know how it will be.
And we don't know how it will be.
So we hope it will be a little better.
And in the present, that hope is...
And in the present, that hope is the joy.
The joy.
And if we give that up and go despair, then everything gets ruined.
So the future,
so that's why
we
it's
don't
the meaning.
know, but we can choose.
It's the purpose,
The purpose is
Stick with
joy.
the hope.
Yes. The purpose is the joy. And the hope is the joy. And again, choice.
So short.
The choice.
Yes, choice it is. Absolutely.
The choice to see through the lens of love. The choice to
I'm
see
having
through the
an
lens
insight
of hope.
talking to you.
Talk to me.
Death, like it's a scary thing. But you know what everybody does? Listening to this, you, me, every day, we reach a point, hopefully we're on our nice soft pillow, quiet, dark room, good temperature, nice sheets, pillow. Luckily, hopefully. And then we completely let go. In a way, we die out of our 5 senses. We just go blank. And anything could happen to us after that. Of course, we lock the door, we do this, that, So we take precautions. But we still let go. And who knows what could happen, And then we might have, and we have a dream, dreams will happen. But the point is, we go through a surrender.
Every night.
Every single day.
That's right.
We do it with pleasure, with faith, with confidence. We feel even annoyed that we're going to have to wake up the next day, maybe if we're busy or we're too tired or something, But we faithfully we surrender.
Yes.
So people like to surrender. They don't mind because they have that means at the deepest cellular level that we know that it'll be good. And we'll be refreshed and renewed. And a key thing to escape from the dogma of materialism, that we don't have spirit, that we don't have soul, that we don't have mind, which people, by the way, misunderstand Buddhism as saying, which is not what they say.
Right.
But they just say our soul doesn't have a rigid identity.
Yep.
Our soul is very transformable. It can fall, it can go bad, but mainly it's a lot of things encouraging it to expand into beauty. That's what our soul is about. So we do have one, actually. And Buddha never said we didn't. And he just said we didn't have a rigid identity that never can change. That he's very, very big on that one. So this to me is a big insight now because death otherwise seems too scary to people. But that's all it is. Death is just another kind of a sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And the soul goes on.
Yes.
And spirit, and actually a lot of the regular mind goes on, just like our mind, our subtler level of mind produces a whole set of senses and an environment in our dream.
Yep.
So it's amazingly creative. Like you and I could have dreamed we would be here like a week ago.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
I might be dreaming this now.
Yeah, it sort of is a dream. There's a metaphysical text called A Course in Miracles, and there's a whole passage in the text about the happy dream.
Yes.
And living in the happy dream.
Yes.
Which is really unlearning the fear of the world and remembering the truth of the love of who we are. And then when we get that, I think you and I think I'll speak for myself. I'm like itching into the happy dream. I think you're living in the happy dream, my friend. But that's the result of that commitment and that consistency. And so if someone today were to pick up this new book, what would be your hope for them in your new book? What would your hope for them be that they could take away and start to implement in their life?
Yes.
To start to be living in the happy dream.
You know, nowadays, so when I have to give a lecture somewhere, one of my favorite lectures is Buddhist ethics and the world crisis or something. I'll give a lecture like that. And in a way, I will just try to represent my dear friend and teacher of 60 years now, His Holiness Dalai Lama, who is such a sweet person, really. He really is. And he's a great, great grandpa, very nice one. Mm-hmm. But I end up, the main thing I would like people to take away is to try to recultivate and reinforce in them and find in their actual experience that they have by examining it, that life is good, that the world is good, even in the middle of horrible things, like certain horrible things are going on right now. Some crazy people who feel very alienated from other people and very scared even of usually, dictators, who they're most scared of?
Themselves.
Their own bodyguards.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's who they're most scared of.
Absolutely. They're
and then
so
their own
scared.
people.
Yes, exactly.
So in a country, when they rule a country, it's their own people they're scared of. So therefore, they want to make their people think there's a big enemy over there, even if it gets killed fighting with that enemy. They don't care because they're so scared of everybody. So that's the sad thing, is the people who seem to be powerful are the most scared. That's why some of the billionaires would just want to go to Mars. They want to go and be in a bunker in New Zealand. They just want to get away because they think everybody's after them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because they've gotten out of balance, So what I want everybody to take away is cultivating the choice to see the good everywhere and to feel the good. Because they can, and they do every night, or they would, if you don't sleep for 17 days or something, you die. So you have to sleep. You have to surrender to being in the flow, And if you don't, then you actually harm yourself.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is really critical.
The responsibility.
That, to me, is the big takeaway. The other thing is, since people think Buddhism is all about meditating, I like to change that. Of course, meditating is important, and we all meditate all day long. And actually, one of the main things that we do in modern society is we meditate on television.
We do.
We do. And when we see news, it intensifies our fear.
Yep.
And when we see commercials, it intensifies our dissatisfaction and greed. Okay, so then we are cultivating negative things that prevent us from finding the goodness in our own hearts.
That's exactly right.
So we have to temper that and make better choices. I always tell people, meditate on the Zoloft commercial. That's my favorite line to them. You remember that commercial?
I don't know.
If you've never seen it, it's a lady in a kitchen. And she's doing breakfast. And then the kid is throwing the porridge on the floor. The dog is doing something. Husband is being a pain. Waffle is smoking in the toaster because she got distracted. It's just terrible. Camera pans out in the window. There's a field with some yellow blossoms in it, like weeds. The blossoms pop off and they spell Zola. So that gives you the idea. She took one, and then suddenly, boom, 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 everything is clicking together. Meaning she feels a little joy, her mood was altered. Of course, the choice was made for her involuntarily by a chemical. That's our material.
Or you could even say that she chose because even if that's the vehicle through which she's getting there, the good side of it,
you're right.
That there might be God in that medication for her that day. Yes,
you're right.
Beautiful.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, it proves that we all know that we do everything better when we feel a bit better.
That's right.
So then the first step is to feel better.
That's right.
And that's a choice we can make by seeing the half full. And this relates to, Dalai Lama's translator, Tenzin Jimba, Thupten Jimba, his name is. And he's a dear friend of mine. And I was doing an interview with him, and he was talking about meditating, because, everybody asks him, Dalai Lama's translator, what do I meditate? What do I meditate? And he was saying, well, meditating is important and very good. But, there's another, the most important one is what you're doing all day.
That's right.
And you're meditating out in public. You're meditating in the middle of your life by, in a way, working on the narrative that the monologue, the narrative that guides you through your life, and you're looking a little critical at that, and you're being analytic about it. And the negative narrative would make you project negativity into a scene. You're being maybe a little restraining on that, and the positive narrative, you're pushing that one, and so you're making choice meditations all the time.
Love that.
So you're out there, and it's not like, just when I'm sitting on my pillow.
But you're making choice.
Although that's good. When you're sitting on the pillow, it's good, because then you observe yourself mindfully, and you learn that there is all these inner narratives going on, and that there's freedom to choose among them. You don't just have to follow the loudest one.
Yes.
Which, if you've been traumatized by a custodian of some kind, or somebody telling you negative things, who's traumatizing you, then you're repeating that to yourself. And so then when you meditate, you can take a look at this like a self-analysis.
Yeah.
And quieting yourself down. That is very important. But he says then the one is all 24/7.
Yeah.
And then the second big in love that I did, well, actually maybe third, my second wife, after having been a monk, I fell in love with her. And even though she was not exactly like, oh, you're so great, you're a monk, it was like, oh, are you trying to get enlightened? Well, was that enlightened when you got mad today about that? Like the 24/7 yoga. She was always the one who was into
But you know what, though? The enlightenment was when you redirected after you got mad at them.
Yes.
Right? That thesis that we have our meditation practice is where we're reflecting, and it also creates more of that muscle memory to be in those meditative moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this idea that we are having meditative choices all throughout the day.
Yes.
And that each time we say, I'm not going to watch CNN, but I'm going to watch a Bob Thurman video on my YouTube and start rechange all the algorithm
Gabby.
On my YouTube.
Mine's too boring.
Then you are far from boring, my friend. That is, those subtle little moments of choice are meditative moments.
Yes.
And just today, when I was saying something about like somebody that pissed me off 7 years ago, and I was joking about it with my makeup artist, and then I immediately said, you know what? Let me just send her some compassion. I don't need to be doing this. Meditative moments, these little redirects, and moments of grace for ourselves and self-forgiveness and just adjustments. And so I think that that's such a nice place to, first of all, this conversation can't ever really end, because I would like to stay your friend and hang out with you more, because this is so fun for me. But for today's conversation, this is a nice place to sort of wrap this up, is that we can take those meditative moments and add them up.
Yes. That's it.
And those meditative moments are the miracle
all the
moments.
time.
And the way that we live a miraculous life is by adding up those little meditative moments.
Mm-hmm.
Because each meditative moment is the miracle. It's that shift in our thinking. And the more we add up those miracles, the more we live a miraculous life.
Yes.
And so, oh, my friend, I could go on with you forever. This is just joyful. It really is.
Really great.
Any last thing you want to share?
Well, I just want to thank you for being there, and I don't pretend to have been totally unmale chauvinized, but I'm still trying. 57 years of marriage has helped me learn a lot, and 5 children instructing me, letting me see my flaws and my good side, luckily for me. And but the voice of the female is key, I think. So Dalai Lama got himself in trouble because people misunderstood him when he did say that we need more women in leadership positions. Marianne Williamson rightly said recently, I heard her say, I hadn't counted them up, she said, there's 72 wars right now on this planet, with many people being killed, their homes being destroyed, their children being killed, their grandparents being killed by And of those 72 wars, not a single one was started by a woman.
That's right.
And we just can't afford those wars anymore. They're just a distraction. And then also the race to arm on all sides is a misallocation of resources, which need to be put to repairing Mother Earth and, planting trillion trees and cleaning the plastics out of the ocean and et cetera, And that's, the combined military budgets of everybody, if 1/5 of them were spent every year on climate remediation, we'd be there by 2030 for sure.
Totally.
And we should be there. We must be there by 2030. And this is the big turnaround year.
Yeah.
So what I would like to leave everybody with, among their choices, we do have freedom in our country to choose. And we should only choose people who are positive. People who say we should choose them because everything is horrible. If they think everything is horrible, then we can be guaranteed they will make it more horrible.
Yeah.
Only someone who can see through the horrible without ignoring it and see as that it's possible to fix it. Only choose those people. And more women too.
I am with you.
And oxytocin, not cortisol.
Yes.
Right? That's what we need.
We need a lot of
That's what I would like to share.
Yeah. And we need hope.
Yes, of course.
I'm hopeful that this is the year where there's going to be change. You said it here.
Yes, it has to be, and it's going to be.
It's going to be.
And the miracle of the 14th Amendment, Section 3.
Yes.
We should be gripped by the amazing grace of 14th Amendment, Section 3.
That's right.
And I asked people, have they read it? Nobody's read it. It's online. Just click. U.S. Constitution 14th Amendment, Section 3. Click.
Yep.
It's only like one paragraph.
Okay.
And it's really clear. And by the way, the courts have nothing to say about it. It's a matter for the Congress to give someone an exception. And if someone is banned, they just have to stay home. It's not a crime to be banned. It's just you can't hold office again.
That's exactly. Just go home.
It was made for the Civil War people who had already been insurrecting. And when anybody is publicly insurrecting every day, you don't need a court case to prove that that's what they're doing.
And so I'm with you from a political perspective that it's easy to get, and this is a whole other, we can do a whole other podcast on this, but it's very easy to get hooked into the dramas, the problems, the chaos, because it's so insane.
Yes.
But I like that you're just hooking into the hope of the 14th Amendment, right?
It.
So I'm going to go, I'm choosing
the syllogism that certain people don't get. Not like 24 years ago, somebody didn't get this syllogism, which is lesser of evils equals less evil.
That's right. That's right.
Let's remember that.
That's right.
More evil and a little less evil are not both equal.
Yep.
One is less. So go for the less.
Go for the less, everybody. I think that's a nice way to end this conversation. I adore you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being my new friend.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
My love. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.